one of the legacies of apartheid was that the university was an elite entity.
I've had
It
academics
was meant
describe
for
that.
the rich or those who can be whatsoever. So transforming the university for me is the massification of students with success, mostly previously disadvantaged. Currently, the transformation doesn't work. With university take hundreds and hundreds of students, very fair enough and good. But the success rate is very bad. We massify the access, but the success is not tangible. That becomes the way, and we end up having students doing a 3-year diploma, staying 5 to 6 years in the system. Now they are wasting the taxpayers' money and blocking other poor students to come into the system. Transformation cannot be about black managers. It must be transforming the lived and learned experiences of students, and they succeed and go to become civic, active students. That is what I want to see in transformation. And students having support, and students having, support emotionally, spiritually, and intellectually. Students are not an intellectual beings. But the university system from the apartheid and colonial, they've treated students as empty vessels. That's where social justice come in, and that's where the public good of the university come in. Because most universities are ivory towers.
What do you mean?
People are doctors and professors, and they are respected like that by the society. They go to the shop, everybody greet the professor, but that's not the purpose of university. Even if or of education,
Ramoshaba.
can read
Yeah.
the pedagogy of the oppressed and all those things, is to transform the society. And it's like, when we do this agricultural project with the prison, I'll give that because that's what is one
Yeah.
of my darlings. It's the project that I love.
Yes.
Because when you go there, the food that we produce, even the offenders or the prisoners don't eat that. We've got dedicated old age homes
Yes.
or places of safety where we deliver the food products.
Great. If you value evidence-based thinking in a time that often feels post-truth, and you want to hear directly from the scholars doing the real work, subscribe to the Solomon Atah Podcast. Like this video, join the conversation in the comments, and share it with someone. Your support helps us bring more PhD voices to the platform. What is the moral purpose of a university in a society still wrestling with inequality, memory, and unfinished transformation? In this episode, we interrogate higher education not as a credential factory, but as a civic institution responsible for shaping ethical citizens, democratic cultures, and public reasoning. From student development and institutional power to AI ethics and contested cultural debates, this conversation pushes us to rethink what universities are for and who they ultimately serve. My guest is Dr. Sefoko Ramoshaba. Dr. Ramoshaba is a scholar and higher education leader whose work sits at the intersection of ethics, student development, institutional transformation, and public intellectualism. His research interrogates how universities cultivate moral agency, navigate social justice imperatives, and respond to contested cultural questions within a constitutional democracy. Engaging issues from governance reform to polygamy debate, he brings a rigorous, argued, culturally grounded voice to some of South Africa's most complex academic and social conversations. The Solomon Atah Podcast with Dr. Ramoshaba starts now. Good afternoon, Doc, and welcome.
Good afternoon, and thanks for hosting me in your show.
Thank you so much. Dr. Ramoshaba, I am currently speaking to you from Tanzania. Where are you speaking to me from?
I'm speaking from George. George is a small town in Western Cape.
Yeah.
One of the provinces of South Africa.
Oh, fantastic. I know the place. I've driven past there quite a little bit. Douglas, before we get into the questions that we've shared and we've prepared, to what extent does pursuing a PhD and continuous research shape not just what you know, but who you become as a person.
Pursuing PhD is one of the rigorous academic projects
Mm,
a person can take,
yeah.
but what it means as an end product. You must be a scholar
Mm,
that is able to transform the knowledge on paper to
I
the
see.
benefit of the society.
Mm,
Civic engagement, civic activism,
mm,
and then and transforming the paper and the university space.
mm,
If you are like me, the university space, like it must be for the public good. Your
I see.
academic paper must not be for your status, it must be for the public good.
Mm,
What does the public good means? It
yes.
means the university must be for the benefit of the society
Mm,
and the surroundings, and the surrounding communities must
mm,
see the university as the source of hope, as
mm,
the source that can bring their economic hardships away by doing maybe business with the university, by the university.
mm,
For example, if you have done research, in wood technology, you got a department.
mm,
A university can fail every year to go to the squatter camps and build a wooden house because you specialize in wood technology.
mm,
That is the public good for the university and research, not
mm,
just for us to pack our journals and our books and files and credentials. It
mm,
can't be on credentials. It must be to save humanity, to change the hardships that the world
mm,
and the university and the local communities face.
mm. Dr. Ramoshaba, I interacted with a flyer on LinkedIn that you posted, and it had to do with polygamy at the center of dignity. I do have questions for you later on, but perhaps just for context, can you just give me some kind of a background to your interest in the subject of polygamy? Is this a commentary on demographic trends, or are you just contrasting your thoughts around advocacies from the West or Western practices?
Yes, thank you. Look, I would like to tell you because I grew up under Christocentric background. I
Mm,
always view it as demonic, as part of whatever. But as a human being, as you do research, you
mm,
interact with people, you question the standards and the moral.
mm,
I realize, you know what, that's an African cultural way of living. And by the way, my mother's grandmother had 6 wives. It's a big family. My
mm,
father's grandfather had 3 wives. So I'm not far-fetched from polygamy. I've
mm,
got 2 wives. I'm a polygamist also.
mm,
And, people get shocked, we are educated and then, because they think African culture is for uneducated, it's for people who are barbaric and what. So I put it there because most men I know, they cheat. So I'm an African man. I can't have a girlfriend and stand at the corner. If I love that girlfriend,
mm.
I must marry that girlfriend.
We have those questions coming up, but I like the way you've set it up. Very interesting. I'm sure the audience are going to love it. Uh, Dr. Ramoshaba, your scholarship and leadership work engage student development, ethics, and institutional transformation. In your view, what is the moral purpose of the university in post-apartheid South Africa, and how should institutions balance academic excellence with social justice imperatives?
Yes, social justice is the main proponent of education.
Okay.
Education may not be for the rich or the middle class.
Mm,
It must also be for the working class and the poor. Education must transform society. And
mm,
I can safely say, without scratching my back, our current education system does not serve the purpose of the world. If really education and all this many research from scientists
mm,
were true to the society and they have the main purpose of the public good,
mm,
HIV could be gone. But manufacturers don't want to make HIV go away because they won't make money. TB should have been long gone. Malaria should have been long gone. So what's the purpose of this research and education? Poverty is increasing at a high and alarming level. The squalors, the slums, even in America. But people are publishing. There are best universities, Harvard in America, but they can't end poverty. So they are not saving that public good, the universities, at all. Even in South Africa, they are just, um, some, I don't know the right way to say, but they are
Mm.
not there for the society, mostly for the poor and the marginalized. They
You
are
see,
failing. The research produced is just put in the carpet. It's good for their CVs and titles when they go to this main event, and for National Research Fund ratings for their academic stature and money. But there's nothing universities are done to end poverty. South African universities are not there to help to transform South Africa to the mass democratic movement because they are indebted, they are self-serving. They don't serve the purpose of transforming the society and their surrounding communities. Students stay in squalor, the dining hall, everything is dirty, but why are the professors there? How does a professor feel going in when the paper published? So the universities are not currently serving any purpose. They are self-serving, maybe for the rich
so in terms
and
of,
the multinational companies.
I do speak to academics here quite a bit, and someone was saying to me that how does it happen that, and they were actually trying to contextualize a comment around inequality. So, and they also say that how is it that despite all we know as a community, as humanity, we still have inequality side by side, like we still live with it, is still here. Like we have not done much to end inequality, despite all the knowledge that has been researched. And you are saying similar things, Dr. Ramoshaba.
Yes, because they are not designed to serve the poor. Remember, the current universities, and
Mm,
even where I've studied all my qualifications,
mm,
they were designed by a white male to be self-serving to the masters of a black man or a black slave, which is England,
okay.
which is Europe, which is America. Even though one of the first universities in the world
Mm,
was developed by a woman in Morocco,
mm,
and that university still exists. But because that university ended up being designed like a European university that cannot deal with African problems.
which means the African university needs a redesign, Dr. Ramashaba. Does the university, based on your opening remarks now, does it need a redesign, a reconceptualization? And if that was the case, what should it look like? Because
Okay.
it's good to propose some
Yes.
solutions to this
Yes.
as
Look,
an academic
from
yourself.
yes, from my side, from where I'm sitting,
Mm,
I'm a representative of a white man in Europe. I'm perpetuating the interest of capitalism.
okay, that's interesting.
That's what universities that it has been designed like that, we like it or not. If you see all the academics and everybody, they are wearing Levi's. Even black people are wearing all those designed by Europeans. You will never see somebody, an academic or a university manager or a director wearing a black design or a locally designed dress or a shoe because we are still self-serving the masters
Mm,
that are in Arizona, that are in Europe. That's how the university was designed until we design an African university for African solutions. We, that looks at how do you uplift
mm.
the poor people around you. That was the university must do to end poverty, to end hunger, to end inequalities. Why do we still exclude poor black people when they fail some modules? While we know they are from villages where there is no internet, there is no Wi-Fi, there's nothing, there is no library, there's nothing. But you said you fail 1 year, go away. Because it's not meant for them. It's not meant for the problems that colonialism and apartheid has done and ravaged our communities. It's meant for the rich. That when you fail, we remove free education, pay with your money. How can a child of a servant or a maid be able to pay because the child failed modules? without knowing that the teachers in the villages are not empowered, the schools are not empowered. Their old education, Bantu education under apartheid, does not empower them to adjust to the new world. So our universities are not public good, are just an extension of the load systems that run London, that runs the White House to make sure they get our minerals. Why is Africa doesn't have the places where we can refine our minerals and produce the end products? We take
Is
our
that
resources.
something you observed across post-colonial Africa, or is that something that is peculiar only to the limits of your own research, Dr. Ramoshaba?
Even by mere observation and speculations.
Mm.
Uh, it doesn't work in Zimbabwe. It doesn't work in Mozambique. It doesn't work in Kenya. DRC areas, the white colonialists have destroyed the country and the political system. It's a sorry sight to listen and to hear the stories from there.
Mm.
But unstable democracies, which are also destroyed by Africans, because their leadership is not based on Ubuntu or Africanism. It's
Mm.
still based on their capitalism, socialism, communism, which are stolen from the white people from Russia, from Europe. We don't have our own way of leadership.
Mm. Maybe this is where
If
the
you look at,
answer is. Yeah.
yes.
Maybe where this is where the answer on this other question. You have written and spoken about student judicial services and ethical leadership. How can universities move beyond disciplinary compliance models towards developmental framework that cultivate moral agency? And I would like you, Dr. Ramoshaba, to stay on moral agency, civic responsibility, and democratic citizenship.
Universities, on issues of ethics
Mm.
and the issue of, because issue of ethics also deals with morality
Yeah.
and the moral upbringing. Universities to have awareness and educational campaigns on student ethics, not code of conduct where they are having a stick. You copy, we beat you. No, university systems must have awareness campaigns, where you are not reactive. You are the first to talk about these things. You are the
Mm.
first to warn students about these things, not to wait for them and you react after.
Mm.
That's how things get. And the reactionary model of code of conduct, what it does, you expel a student because he or she copied from the examination. And there are unintended consequences of a disciplinary hearing.
Mm.
You chase that poor student who didn't even understand the ethics,
Mm.
and then that student was a first generation student in the extended family to go to university to help alleviate the long-standing poverty. Now you punish the students, but you have punished the whole extended family of
Mm.
30 to 40 people. That is the unintended consequences of punishment. But corrective justice in student ethics, where you also teach students to
Mm.
deal with conflict resolution,
Yes.
resolution of conflicts through dialogue.
Mm.
And students, they sit and talk. What must be the punishment that this person damaged your phone? And then you teach people to resolve conflict, not to think, because disciplinary hearing and a stick is violence. You promote violence. It's an eye to eye. You
Mm.
scratch my eye, I scratch your eye. But if you can go to corrective system, I know there are some offenses, are unforgivable,
Yes.
like you are rape, like killing and all those things.
Mm.
But for the students to have copied a paragraph, you can find a way to teach them what is plagiarism and what is the meaning of plagiarism and what are the disadvantages. And
Mm.
a disadvantage for a student to copy in class is that the student will be a mining engineer while he or she had copied, and people are going to die, innocent people.
Mm.
That's an unintended consequences of unethical behavior. So
Yes.
students need to understand the bigger picture. It's not
Mm.
about copying, being caught or not caught. It's about saving the society, not
Mm.
self-saving yourself to
Mm.
pass. That's that. And then the student activism as the university,
Yes.
as I've said, where I work,
Mm.
we've got a project with correctional services
mm,
where we train offenders computer literacy every July. It's going for the 4th year now.
mm,
We are doing corrective justice. We are doing corrections to
mm,
empower offenders when they come out of prison or jail.
mm,
They must have something to show to the society. I have reformed.
mm,
I have changed. Now you can hire me. I've got this certificate. I can be a cashier. I can work.
mm,
Than for them to go out and come back. We also do agriculture
mm,
with the corrections, where we take agroeconomic skills with
yeah,
some academics and students and staff
mm,
members. We plan with offenders for the whole year.
I
We
see.
transfer agroeconomic skills
Yes.
and sustainable or subsistence farming.
Mm,
That should be active student activism. Student activism is not to toy toy when it's Women's Day, when it's Human Rights Day, or when they are
mm.
angry. It's
Very
to
clear
go,
distinction there, Dr.
yeah, it's to
Ramoshaba.
go to the
Yes.
society and transform the society. They see real transformation in real time, and you see your impact in real time, so
Yes.
that you can say, look, my education is not self-saving. It's saving all of us,
Mm,
me and my neighbor, mostly the
yes.
marginalized and the poor neighbors. So
Mm,
that's what must be the role of education. You can see some universities, they are surrounded by squatter camps, but they are number two in South Africa, they are number one. They are doing nothing. They don't build even labs to the communities. This is a lab to the school. Universities, you can have accounting students going to the poor schools
mm,
to academic accounting tutors, mathematic tutors
mm,
for free. University just provide transport for those students.
mm.
That is student activism.
That's
You
a very,
know,
yes, I really like that definition of the way you've reimagined what student activism can be or should be, and how that activism can benefit common environment for common good.
yes.
Very, very insightful. You see, okay, higher education institutions often claim commitment to transformation and equity. I think this is where you already are. From your experience, where do you see the gap between rhetoric and practice, particularly in governance structures, resource allocation, and institutional culture?
Thank you for the question, because it's one of my interests.
Okay.
In a South African context,
Mm.
transformation, it's like, cosmetics. You put, I'm too dark, I put those cosmetics, I look more browner. I go to TV, they deal with my scratches, like
Yeah.
TV presenters, I look
Mm.
smarter. That's what transformation is in South Africa. The government was lily white. We said we need black people's transformation. Now it's lily black. Black people are suffering more. Even the roads that a black person built
Mm.
are damaged, and a black government is not fixing them. And it's their families that are suffering. Even at universities, about the numbers game. We've got a black manager who's Sefoko Ramoshaba. That's the number. Sefoko Ramoshaba now drives a Jeep, drives this big car. He drives to the communities where there are people poor. They worship him. He has achieved, he has arrived. But what does the students achieve from this black man in the university? Those who are
Mm.
marginalized, those who are poor, those who don't have food. Is this Sefoko Ramoshaba trying to look after the needy or the poor? What happens to a student who comes and said, I don't have money. I will have money month and April, and the university closes today registration. Must I chase that black student? The real transformative manager will not chase that student. We'll have to talk to the parents. Are you really going to pay? The parents must say yes. I'll let the student stay, but it's against the university policy. But a transformative university must allow those arrangements beyond the registration day, the students stay, money be paid with the limits and conditions obvious. If they don't pay, then action will be taken. But it can't be assumed that all parents can have 9,500 to register for a room. And you said you are a transformative university. You are not. You are a client. You are a transactional university. Your education is about money. It's not about equity.
Is equity, university equity? I'm not very familiar the way universities are structured, but is university equity something that makes part of its policy, or is that something that you, as a researcher, is advocating for, Dr. Ramoshaba?
Yes, we do.
Mm,
I can safely say you can Google my name. You'll find on Google on an SABC 2023.
mm,
I had an interview with SABC. There were students who were sleeping in the boardrooms, and I closed offices because there were challenges with the financial aid, the free higher education agency,
mm.
which excluded more than 350 students. I told those poor kids, you can't go. You are not here for the mattress for a bed. Sleep in this boardroom and go home with a qualification, or leave the university because we can't give you a bed and be poor forever. The student
Tough,
stays,
tough
but
love.
yes, others, and those students didn't have food. To buy food for them at the dining hall to give that multitude, it was 69,000 just for one lunch.
Wow.
But a black manager will look for resources, even his external resources. Will talk to other staff members, please come with even a tin of beans or 6 beans. We help these poor kids. I was interviewed, why do you put them in the boardroom? They were in the passages. I did put them. It's against university police. But that was what I can have as a black person to uplift these black kids. I can tell you after 6 months, they've got the funding. They were on the syllabus. Some completed their studies.
Oh, well
If I
done.
was a transactional university, I said, go home. You don't have money. I could have chased 300 people
That could have
who were
that
going
will
to
become
affect.
incredible citizens in future.
Yes, and then you can put 15, 20 people in a family. You calculate 300 by 20. So, you know, in our African culture, we go to a funeral very far or lot. There is no place to sleep. We all sleep at the corners because the purpose of the funeral is not luxury. Those who got cars, they sit in the cars uncomfortably, but we are here for a burial. We are not here for luxury. So sometimes, you have to have a way of extending a hand of love as an equity. Not to say you don't have money, go home. No. I will advise you to go and you'll find it and Google it there. Sefoko Ramoshaba, SABC.
Mm.
I've done it and I don't regret. Some students were not happy because it was not humane. But if it's inhumane and you achieve your academic qualification and you become someone better in life, for me, I rather be
You've
judged
done your
on that
job. You've done your
than
part.
to be
You've done your contribution.
inhumane and show a black student, a black poor student the gate. I'm a transformative social justice proponent. I will never do that and throw a student in an unreasonable manner.
Mm. I spoke to the former VC. He was one of the very first to be on this podcast at UP. And he says to me, and he was VC at UP during COVID. He says to me, it wasn't just okay, and this is Professor Tawana Kupe. It wasn't just okay to say, okay, now we are going to go online teaching, remote teaching, without understanding what the students needed, whether everyone had a means of getting online and so on. I said he rallied the entire university community and they had to find laptops. And when they had laptops, they had to go for data to say, did everyone have data? Not just because you've now said, let's go virtual, that you assume that everyone was okay. And that he didn't want that on his watch, that university was going to exacerbate the prevalent inequalities. And I think that's the same kind of approach that you used to say it's better to sleep on the bench for a while and then come out with your certificate at the end. That's incredible, Dr. Ramoshaba. That's incredible. Your work highlights collaboration between universities and communities. How can universities avoid extractive engagement models and instead build reciprocal knowledge systems that recognize communities as co-producers of knowledge rather than beneficiaries? I like this one.
Yes, that's where social justice come in, and that's where the public good of the university come in.
Mm.
Because most universities are ivory towers.
How do you mean?
People are are doctors and professors, and they are respected like that by the society. They go to the shop, everybody greet the professor, but that's not the purpose of university. Even if, or of education
Ramoshaba.
can read
Yeah.
the pedagogy of the oppressed and all those things, is to transform the society. And
Mm,
it's like, when we do this agricultural project with the prison, I'll give that because that's what
mm,
is one
yeah.
of my darlings,
Mm,
is the project that I love.
yes.
Because when you go there, the food that we produce, even the offenders or the prisoners don't eat that. We've got dedicated old age homes
Yes.
or places of safety
Mm,
where we deliver the food
oh,
products
great.
and to the students who need them, who are in need. Offenders get the skills, universities serve the
Society.
community,
Oh,
and then
great.
the society benefits from that project. And those offenders are the society. And they
Oh,
also get
great.
certificate of participation from the university so that when they go out, they say, I was at that George prison, but Nelson Mandela trained me for this. So it's a one-way activism.
Incredible. Yes.
The offender remain with something.
Yes.
The prison has got a good standing as
Yes.
Department of Correctional Service that they
Yes.
really do the real corrections of offenders.
Yes.
Everybody benefits
Yes.
from the university as our social responsibility requirement will benefit the
Yeah.
prison. They benefit in their corrections. The offenders they benefit the skills. The community they benefit the end products
The
of our
product.
produce. So everybody benefits, and
Mm,
it's all round way. There are four people that are benefits, which is all the
mm.
community. It's not the university.
How long has you have you been involved in this, Dr.
It's
Ramoshaba?
4 years now. It's
Mm-hmm.
4 years.
Oh, great. And I'm sure you are getting quite a bit of reward, I mean, moral, intellectual reward, and also some research. Is there any research associated with this, some outcomes?
Yes, this year we've got the student who's going to do PhD on this
Oh,
project. I've
okay.
also published. I also published a research journal
Mm, mm,
in India about this.
okay. Because I can
Uh,
see the ecosystem there. Yeah.
yes, I've written about that. And I can give you some of our students, some were 2014 wood technology students.
Mm,
They built 10 beds with wood
okay.
and there were mattresses. We saw sponsorship from
Mm,
forestry companies because there are a
mm,
lot of forestry companies around George
yes.
to Gqeberha and to Cape Town.
Mm,
The students on their own, they built beds. We took them to the space where there are battered children,
mm.
abused children and abused women. So that's
And
what we
donated those
call
beds there.
yes for
Mm,
free.
mm.
The places has done nothing except to receive. So
Oh,
that is what
great.
we call linking the academia
With
and
community.
student activism and changing the lives of the society. Mostly those ones who are in the margins, the marginalized.
Mm,
That's what must be the universities. It must not be self-saving. Like we must have this high rate. We must be on the top 10, must be on top five. But you got nothing to do with for the poor. The university, a person when the people have a sheikh must burn or sheikhs must burn. The first thing they must remember the university that that university can save you. They must not remember you that you drive big cars,
mm,
you stay in the suburbs, you stay in townhouses or no. No,
mm,
they must remember that university it breathes, it got a heart, it got a brain, it
mm,
thinks for other people because that is the basis of the university, the public good.
mm.
Our knowledge is to transform lives, not to enhance or enrich our CVs.
I like that. As universities integrate AI into teaching and research and administration, what ethical frameworks should guide decision making to ensure that technology enhances rather than undermines equity, access, and intellectual integrity?
Look, I can give my general understanding, and I attended another workshop
Mm,
yesterday. South Africa does not even have a digitization policy. They've got frameworks and which are not implemented.
mm,
And you expect university to be the drivers of that. Coming to that universities, the university to suggest the government you can do this
mm,
because the government does not have resources and the thinking to come with this project.
mm,
Because remember, there's elected politicians. The one below them are just administrators. And mostly in South Africa with the government where you got, the ruling party, the ANC, with their cadre employment, they end up employing cadres who can sing nice struggle songs in those offices, and they can't think anything about digitization. And it happens in Zimbabwe. There is also the cadre deployment. It's called in different way. Any ruling party, when they win, they get their people to support their objectives, which is not a problem because that's why they contest the election for.
Mm.
But if the people can't deliver, that's a problem. So in South Africa, we're still on that. AI.
Is that not a post-colonial, like if you look into, let's just use post-colonial Africa, for example, you kind of find that almost across the continent. Is that not the case?
Yeah, it's the case. Like, AI is there, but what will the AI change the life of a person in the villages where there is no electricity and network? And that students come to university. Now the students see AI,
Mm.
students see Google. It's too much to stomach. My child will come here knowing what is AI, what is Google, because,
Mm.
I've got those resources. But the chunk or the majority, they don't have. And the chances for them to abuse AI, because even the parents don't tell them.
Mm.
My kids, they know, I will tell them. 1, 2, 3, it's not allowed at university. But the parents knows nothing there. And the poor student just arrive, yes, I type this, can give me the assignment. And secondly, the other clever students who
Mm.
are from well-to-do students, they can still misuse AI and just go to AI and then transcribe. It becomes like a new thing.
Mm.
You put in these IS technologies, they can't detect because now it's a student brain. But the student just transcribe something from AI. But what is needed is the change of assessment modules.
I see.
When you give students an online assignment, it must be time space bound.
Mm.
If you
I
start to
see.
look at there and whatsoever, time leaves you have answers 3 questions. Secondly, you must go to the physical exams.
Mm. And like
You
oral
must go
exams
to
where you can
the
do
oral
some kind of a
exams
viva.
and presentations.
Mm.
Students must design project. He may copy from AI, but the student must come with a physical object. If it's,
Didn't China just awarded the first physical PhD? If I don't know how to describe it, like
yes,
this person brought an invention into a university, and it was assessed. I saw it on LinkedIn, and it was making the rounds. So
I
they
also
have to
saw
now
it.
produce something.
I've seen it at the University of Cape Town. The guy was doing masters there.
Mm.
He has built a 5-room house using soil, no cement, and the old things. It's a nice house. But those are the ways that you can give the decency to people as long as they are strong and they can be well painted and whatsoever
Mm.
can be, but it's the master's level and UCT is one of the top one or second universities in South Africa.
Mm.
So if university come with those poverty alleviation projects,
Yes.
that is transformative. So, but that is the good way of going for assessment.
Mm.
If you are doing tailoring, you sit here, you give the material, you tailor here, it's the week, you go home, it's 3 days, you tailor, I want a t-shirt. You end those copying, they are not going to give it to a tailor and pay and bring it in class.
Mm.
So assessment modules need to change. The old traditional assessment
Needs
methods
to
are
respond
more
to time.
relevant than ever.
Mm.
Yeah, they are more relevant than ever to
Mm.
curb, unethical use of AI and technologies.
Mm. The South African universities have undergone waves of, I'll take that question over. South African universities have undergone waves of reform, protest, and policy change. Do you believe institutions are experiencing transformation fatigue? And what kind of leadership is required to sustain meaningful change over the next decade?
Yes, I think the one of the legacies of apartheid was that the
Mm.
university was an elite entity.
I've had
It
academics
was meant
describe
for
that.
the rich or those who can be whatsoever. So transforming the university for me is the massification of students with success, mostly previously disadvantaged. Currently, the transformation doesn't work. With university take hundreds and hundreds of students, very fair enough and good. But the success rate is very bad. We massify the access, but the success is not tangible. That becomes the way, and they will end up having students doing a 3-year diploma, staying 5 to 6 years in the system. Now they are wasting the taxpayers' money and blocking other poor students to come into the system. Transformation cannot be about black managers. It must be transforming the lived and learned experiences of students, and they succeed and go to become civic, active students. That is what I want to see in transformation. And students having support, and students having, support emotionally,
mm,
spiritually,
mm.
and intellectually. Students are not an intellectual beings. But the university system from the apartheid and colonial, they have treated students as empty vessels. Students' lived experiences are not recognized at universities. You'll find a student just arrive now, they're doing maybe economics or accounting. You ask a students to make an example about the airport. Hey, guy, the student has never seen a bus. It's for the first time they can see a city to city for a long distance, a luxury bus. Now you want them to learn about the airport. If it's economics, why don't you ask a student, write any business venture from your community that people survived? Some were selling acha, some were selling amagunya, fed cooks, and the people survived. They went to teacher colleges, they are police and whatsoever. So acknowledging that students are not empty vessels, acknowledging that we have to extend from their lived and learned experiences because they've learned in the streets, they've learned in their families, they've learned in their high schools, they've learned in the churches and community groupings. That knowledge need to be recognized as a point of departure of learning. Not to start with them, we bombard them with all these terminologies and whatsoever that they don't even have an idea. So I think education need to recognize that mostly the township and the village life is not recognized.
I've had an academic here, Dr. Gavaza Maleke says to me, she says she's from Limpopo. And she says that when you look at gender conversation, there are some paradigms and frameworks that they cannot read. When she goes back to Limpopo to conduct research, those paradigms cannot, and she describes them as Euro-American. They cannot, those Euro-American logics and paradigms and epistemologies, they cannot read what she wants to see in Limpopo. She has to completely abandon them. And you are saying the same thing. She has to abandon those Eurocentric, Euro-American logics so that she can now use different African paradigms to see. And I've had more than one or two academics talk about lived experience being very central to learning. And you are just saying the same thing, Dr. Ramoshaba.
Yes. Yes. That is the challenge. Our educational dynamics are not linked to the lived and learned experiences in life, not in a classroom of the communities. It's a different thing. That's why there's a lot of high employment rate for the students, because students are trained to serve the white man's economy, capitalism. They can't create jobs for themselves. An ordinary woman, if you go to Tembale to the township, an ordinary woman, or I give an example, someone Joburg is called Holomisa in Boxburg. All the people who are doing butler proofs there, who are manufacturing bricks, all sorts of bricks, are from Mozambique and Zimbabwe. And they make good money out of the construction service. They sell sand and what. But South Africans sometimes, say, no, I'm from university, I can't do that. Because we were never taught to be economic and money creators. We're told that I must be in the office sitting in a sofa with a round chair, with a fan and a coffee to go there. We're never told to sustain ourselves on our own. We're meant to serve the economy that's a European economy. And it doesn't work in a township. It doesn't work in a village,
Mm. Okay, let's
even
move
if you
on.
want to do.
Mm.
Yes.
You have stepped into the public discourse with strong culturally rooted arguments. What responsibility do academics carry when engaging controversial social issues in the public domain? And should they navigate backlash? How should they navigate backlash while maintaining scholarly rigor? Public intellectualism.
Look, I've got one point. I don't, whether people give me promotions or not, I don't care. I'll
Hmm.
write what I like
Oh, that's
and speak
typical.
my mind, fighting for the
Yes.
marginalized
Okay.
and the transformation of the knowledge systems. I can tell you, it's so sad. Now you got students who got ancestral calling. They have to drop out of the university because the university don't provide spaces for them. Maybe they have to burn an incense. You need to pray with a candle. You need some umqombothi, and then you talk to our ancestors. Those spaces are not provided.
Dr.
But
Masuku
Christian
said the same
students,
thing. I interviewed an
they
academic,
don't.
sorry,
It's for
to beg your
universities.
word. Yes, I interviewed a student governance academic from university, I think Deban University of Technology. He said exactly the same thing, that the university does not have a framework to deal with that. Exactly what you're saying.
And those are the low-hanging fruits. These people need a space. Those who are believing in African Zionism, candles, and maybe they've got a drum to beat. We don't have a space for them. Christians can book any venue. They can book a stadium. So we just want to go there and pray for an hour for some evil spirits because students get sick, students commit suicide, students die. Oh, we'll just say, get it. If some Sangomas, African traditional healers, want to come and make some rituals, we are going to chase them because we're taught that they are witches. Anything linked to Africans is witches, is witchcraft, is barbaric, is demonic, is hedonism. But for Christians, some spaces where it's Jews, they are allowed the Muslims that lunch hour. But for black students or African spirituality, even staff members, others they have to go through the initiations while working. Some places, like I know from Limpopo, initiation of a traditional healer in Sipedi and vendor doesn't take 3 months. It can take a year or two. Why don't you give a person that leave while you give an academic sabbatical leave to go and write papers that will come and peg and doesn't change the world? While that person, if they can be some because they are forcing us to go to student counseling services, staff counseling services, wellness programs. Some African problems need African solutions.
Mm.
They need African solutions. We don't provide those spaces.
So if a student is having like an episode on campus and is ancestral, the student is on their own.
We call the parent.
Okay.
You call the parent because you don't know how to do. We
Mm.
call the parent. The parent was very far.
But you are
And
advocating that a transformative university should allocate or should accommodate those kinds of various dynamics as they are already accommodating for various faith and belief systems.
these people, Africans, mostly the middle class and educated, they claim to be Christians. Just like the example I give you to polygamy, but they are serial cheaters. And then even these ones, middle class, they don't want to be associated with such traditional prophets or traditional healers or sangomas. But at night they go there. During the day, they said, no, this is demonic. So they don't want to be associated with their Africanness in public. But in private or at their homes, they use these herbs they get from the herbalist, which they call them witch doctors during the day. That it's
Mm.
how apartheid has put a black man with the devil on the cross, or the so-called European civilization. that a black man, you think, for you to be, there's an article I've written, if you Google, you'll find it. The crisis of a black Christian, identity crisis. Even the universities, they've got an Africanness, spirituality, identity crisis. They decide, even the majority can be black. They'll decide to say, to be neutral. Let's let's bow down and have that space to reflect. Africans don't reflect. Africans, they've got their rituals that they must do. They want to play neutrality to accommodate non-African spiritualities. But while majority of staff members or students, 99.9 is black. So you have to, neutrality is not an option.
Is that a majority minority context that you are now mentioning? Because as you
Yes,
speak, I
so
kind
it's
of
the
understand.
majority
So it's a
minority.
majority, but it's a minority.
Yes. And let me tell you that context you move. If any student dies, there will be a memorial service, which is Christocentric, without even knowing that that students like to dead or not. Now you want to praise God, but you never wanted to pray for the student while the student was here. Can you see? That's how Africanness or African spirituality, it's a non-starter at universities. And the worst part is historical black universities. They must know better. They need to be doing better, but they are not. Neutrality is not an option. No, it's not, it's an answer. They think no means that, I didn't provide an answer. No, it's an answer that will supersede by the action after no. Yes, it's an answer that will be superseded by the action after no. And in action, it's also an action. What did you do? Nothing, I was sitting. It's an action. So they are sitting, not doing anything, thinking that they are covering whatsoever, but neglecting our African context.
Dr. Ramoshaba, let's now move to this one on polygamy, dignity, and gender justice. You frame polygamy not as a question of male accumulation, but as a matter of dignity, security, and equality. From a sociological and ethical perspective, how do you respond to feminist critiques that view polygamy as a structurally unequal, and what theoretically foundation supports your reframing?
Yes, I know the backlash. It's very high, but some people are afraid to criticize or to support because
Yeah.
they want to be neutral. There is no neutrality in life. It's a posture.
Yes.
People know where
Fence
they stand
sitting.
inside. It's a posture. It's a public posture that, I rather say nothing so that I can be expected. Feminists, yes, they are feminists and they fight for them. But a feminist, when the feminists speak in front of me, I don't regard that as universal. The feminist speaking for her, self, and some friends. Because polygamy, people enter to polygamy out of choice. It's not that you go with a stick, you go and force the woman to be a second wife. No, it's people who knows going there willingly. I can give you one example of indirect polygamy in our African culture. If my brother dies and the wife is there, it's called ukungena. Ukungena, and I just forgot the other word of the other language. They will call me and say after some time, look, your brother has passed on. You need to go into that house. You are the man of that house. It happened during my time, I've seen it, and the families grew up. Nobody was forced. Maybe culturally people agreed because they didn't. But I'm not talking about polygamy from that side because it was initiated outside of the actors. I'm talking about me meeting Normalizo. We talked Normalizo while talking. I said, but I'm married. And they said, no, I don't have a problem. And then Normalizo whatsoever, but I can't stay being a side chick. And then we agree and said, then yes, let the process begin. So that's how it works. And
I
that's
have
how
a,
it's supposed to work.
Doc, I have a question here. It appears to me that the conversation of polygamy, even as a cultural lived experience of a people, has somehow been marginalized to a point where it's either been reduced to taboo or it's a footnote, and is now trying to reinsert itself into mainstream discourse of cultural sociological discourse. Why is that?
Now, there are people who start to see them as Africans, and they cannot stop living their life of being African because of the naysayers who pretend to be white, to be Europeans, or claiming to be Christians. I've told of many things.
Mm,
Many people, Solomon who spoke to God, who was given powers by God, who slept with Queen Sheba, and then there were those Bomalek queens. No Christian condemns Solomon. The Bible doesn't
mm,
condemn him. Abraham married two wives.
mm,
Christians speak as if polygamy is something that a black man went to fetch from hell. Feminists, yes, it's about women's rights. I understand the women's rights, but a woman wants this. It's a right also. Don't make your problems that you fight for the rights and then you want to deny people the opportunity to participate in their culture.
mm.
Yes, I agree on feminists in terms of being marginalized, being undermined, being subjugated, and being forced to the periphery on the right to live. Yes, that's very wrong. I agree with you 100%. That's good. But they cannot design African culture for the people who want to live it, both men and women.
Mm,
The
mm,
very same feminist, I know of a strong feminist
mm,
who's got a Ben 10. A Ben 10 is when an older lady is
mm,
in love with a young boy.
mm.
But it's an African and it's an Christian. But they are redesigning their space as women. But other women want to live on their space as Africans.
And that's got
So,
contestations.
yes, it's the contestation of space, and the contestation is forever there. But we can't lambast people to make their choices
Mm.
because, men are like that. Not all men are like that.
Dr. Ramshaba,
Some.
let me
Okay.
ask, sorry, I'm breaking your thoughts, but I've got two more questions. What is your research saying on this area? Because I see that you view this completely as part of your broader work on social justice, but you've pushed it into dignity. Are you reclaiming space? What is your research saying around this space?
Yeah, my space is just, I want to reclaim myself the way my grandfathers live. Look, I'm educated not because I love education. I'm educated because the system was structured that I must be educated to survive. If education was not the means of survival, I could not be here. And with also the change of weather, you can't be a traditional farmer, rain doesn't come. Global warming now is when the rain comes, it's destructive,
Mm,
you know. So some people don't understand. We're just in classroom because a white man said, you must go. It's not because they are feminists or because they are Christians. If a white man didn't come, we should be wearing beshu, all those, cloth and all those things. They should be taking their breast outside, like what's happening in Swaziland. That's how we grew up, with our stomachs out, sleeping down. That's being an African. All these other side issues people are talking about, it's what the white man poured in our minds. That's why I'm telling you, a white man can be a mechanic at Volvo and earn so little like me, going home with Chris, but on Sunday he can make the money I make in a month, in a week, fixing cars at home. And that makes them economic independent and job creators for their employees. While I will die an employee and I can't sustain myself when I'm above 60 or 65. That person who's a mechanic will sustain himself and a self beyond, because you can still fix cars when you are 70. You
Mm.
can have your trainees, you say, put this part here,
Mm.
put this part here, put this part,
Yes.
remove this and put this and whatsoever.
Yeah.
So we are consumers. We are not the producers of goods to be consumed. That's how we're designed, and we've been condemned. Our mind has been condemned to look at Europe, to do what is in Europe. Look, Arabs, Qatar, all those Arabs that Iran is attacking,
Mm.
they've got a traditional system of their own democracy. They are rich, they are stable. We condemn them on human rights and no human rights. Will you eat human rights?
Mm.
We got all the rights in South Africa, but people are sleeping with water. They're
Dr.
drinking water.
Ramoshaba,
They're
you're
getting.
stirring up a
So
lot of
are this you?
thoughts
Okay,
there.
yeah, let's.
You're stirring a lot of thoughts there. I can tell you my mind is now. In plural legal systems such as South Africa's, customary practices coexist with constitutional commitments to equality and human rights. You were on this. How should societies negotiate tensions between cultural traditions like polygamy and evolving norms around gender equity, autonomy, and economic justice?
Yes, look, people must learn. There is one way.
Mm.
It's whether gays, lesbians, or this women who got bentens, or those who got polygamy, or those serial cheaters who got one wife but they cheat more than polygamists.
Mm.
Is that we have to learn to tolerate each other, to coexist, and accept that my neighbor is who he is, my colleague is who he is. Not to condemn and come with all these words
Mm.
that we don't even know where they're coming from. Because I don't want my colleague or my neighbor or my family member
Mm.
to embrace my polygamy. I want them to accept it who I am. They are who they are. I don't want embracement. Whether I don't greet my second wife, that's up to you. I don't care. But just know Dr. Sefoko is one, two, three. We don't have to embrace each other.
Mm.
You don't have to embrace this person because he's gay. Come and sleep in my room, or whatsoever. Accept that they're gays, whether you like it or not. Accept and give the space for them to be in real
Who
life.
they want
They
to.
exist.
Mm.
We coexist. If there is time to push a tractor together, we push our tractor together. If it's time for us to go and do our sexual activities, let them go and do it there with their bentens, young boys, or with their females, or with their males. And then let these polygamists go and have their sexual activities with their many wives. Let these ones who marries one wife go and have their sexual activities with one wife. Let those ones with one wife and cheat more outside, let them be. We must coexist in a plural society. We are not there to kill each other and condemn each other. The problem is that when people find a foot on a right, they think there is one way. As much as Christians think that there is one way to heaven, while the Jews believe that they go to heaven through God. There are Jews who don't even believe in Jesus Christ, like Netanyahu. They believe they are going to heaven through God. Chinese, they've got their own, Dalai Lama has got his Buddha, but we are going to one heaven. African ways, they've got their own way through ancestors to go to heaven. Who knows this God? And I can tell you now, God is not a human being like the way Christians says. Christians, they've got this mind of the England kingdom ship of the Lord, where the queen or the king sits surrounded by the prince and the princess. No, it's just a spiritual life that we live. But let's leave it for another day. People think heaven is somewhere. Remember, we used to told heaven is there on top. Elon Musk is on top there, throwing satellites and everything.
Yeah.
He doesn't see God. Now they see the earth. Let's stop it there. This one.
Dr. Ramoshaba, final thoughts. I think we should have another podcast. I should tell you that all the academics that I've been speaking to here, they are resident. because each time we talk, they say it's not enough time. I say, no, you understand. So they promise they will always come back. I think we should have another one again where we can actually just discuss only polygamy, because I think that there's a lot there that we can actually unpack, especially around coexistence and tolerance. And I really like that those grammars that you've put in. So, final thoughts for today.
No, I say thanks for the opportunity, to share my knowledge with you, because the knowledge cannot be packed in a drawer, and the other people can find that knowledge, because I'm participating with my knowledge, and the knowledge is a contested space. I'm not absolutely correct. There is no absolute truth. There is always a relative truth. What is absolute is the numbers. Like from here to Cape Town is 450 kilometers. It's absolute. But the relative distance is that, I can move from here to Cape Town and I don't sleep. That is not long. That is a relative answer, but still the same. When I said it's long, as long as I don't feel sleeping, it's not a problem. It's not a distance. So knowledge is that we have to engage, but to this pluralism or multi-plural society, because South Africa is not a plural society. It's for people to learn to tolerate, to coexist, accept people for who they are, as long as they are not committing common law, or even some common law need to be made not even common crimes, common law crimes, because South Africa is an evolving society. When I grew up, we never had Asians. Now there are many Asians than before. You start to see black people being Muslims, black ladies who are in love with these guys. That is pluralism. That is emerging. And my grandchildren, they will just find it as normal. So, as much as tradition is not time space bound, tradition was done by people, culture was done by people, and some cultural activities were bad because they were befitting a man only or men, and undermining the girl child up to the mother and grandmother. That need to be accepted when we deal with the pluralism of South Africa. But every person must be given a space to live as long as they are not committing crime and they are not creating annoyances to the people around them. I think that's what I can define pluralism.
Dr. Sefoko Ramoshaba, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you very much for hosting me, and I will thank the other people who are going to listen and view this podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you have benefited something from this episode, please subscribe, share, like, and comment. It helps the algorithm show this video to more people.